everybody. What's up? What's going on? I hope you guys are doing well. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I want to say welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. Today, many of you saw that Sean Puffy Combs or Diddy, or Love, or whatever his name is indicted on some pretty serious charges. They were using words like racketeering and empire and conspiracy, which really makes me wonder if he's going to be buried under the jail for a little while, because those are some very serious charges. And to talk about this, and we really want to elevate the conversation, talk about it more so from a business and economic standpoint, I wanted to talk to my wonderful friend, Dr. Lene Javette. How you doing today, Lene?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well, really well. Yeah, the Diddy thing. Man, are you aware of what happened here?
I am aware of what happened here since we discussed this on Fly Nubian Money, a little shameless plug earlier. So we had to dig into it. We watched the video. I read the indictment. The other words that were thrown out were racketeering, sex trafficking, arson, kidnapping, bribery, RICO charges. All of that was thrown out in the indictment today.
Woo! That's heavy. Did you expect this?
I didn't expect it to this extent. What I was saying earlier, whenever you buck up against the system, they always find a way to put you back in your place. Because what we know about Diddy and his practices and his behaviors, they're not brand new. The same way R. Kelly's weren't, the same way Bill Cosby's weren't. But when he tried to sue Ciroc for rights and royalties and to get his money right, we started to see his empire crumble. How dare you buck up against us? We've given you all of this, getting to your place. And then when Cassie started naming those people from the record company, she didn't just sue Diddy, she sued the people at the record company, different executives. I believe they just had to wash their hands of him, and now he's left out in the cold unprotected. So this is what happens.
Interesting. So, I was thinking about that, and okay, I'm gonna ask everybody in here, how many of you think that there's more to these charges? Give me a yes or no in the chat if you think that there's more to the Diddy thing than just what meets the eye. How many of y'all think that there's something deeper going on? Give me a yes in the chat. Also, I'm going to go ahead and jump on a limb and say that while I don't necessarily know, I'm concerned about the idea that people are going to basically Martin Luther King Diddy now, like kind of make him into some sort of persecuted Black man who's just being tried by the system because he was about to buy NBC, right? Or whatever, right? Just come up with some conspiracy. I don't really want to see that, because I think Diddy is kind of a butthole and a creep. I've always felt that way for a long time, just from what I have seen, and I've always had an issue with some of the stuff going on in hip hop. However, you do get a sense that at the very least there are more people involved. That he didn't do this by himself in a vacuum. And that was my point on the R. Kelly thing. It's like, you really think R. Kelly was at all them parties by himself? You don't know that R. Kelly used to kick it big time with Michael Jordan and all these other people. Like y'all forgot all that. Y'all forgot R. Kelly had friends. Jay-Z. R. Kelly was friends with everybody. Diddy was friends with everybody. And so this almost has a Black Epstein kind of feel to it, where it's like, we got to really blow this guy up and keep our distance so that none of the fallout from the explosion hits any of us. What do you think?
I don't think that they can Martin Luther King him. I think that the only way you can be taken down is if you've done some stuff to be taken down. So I don't think he gets to be a martyr. I don't think that we have to I was going to say humanize him. We do have to humanize him. He's a Black man. So I don't want to say we don't have to humanize him, but you only get caught doing dirt when you're dirty. They only go up against you when there's evidence. So I do believe that there were people who protected him, who turned the other cheek with these actions. I do believe that people have known this has been going on for years. This didn't just happen and somebody woke up and was like, you know what, today's the day that we're going to take Diddy down. I don't think that that's what it was. He was doing things. He became a little bit cocky, got a little bit arrogant. I think he started to believe his own hype, that he was untouchable, that he was really a bad boy, and that he couldn't be prosecuted. And so when you act like that, your day comes, right? And so I think that this is karma returning to him. I think that he was given a lot of opportunities and chances to get himself together. I think he did
Mm,
a little bit too late. He tried to give the people their masters back. He changed his name multiple times, but he didn't change his behaviors. So he tried
mm.
to, love and do all these different things, but the behavior never changed. And so I think he did too little, too late. And now this is the repercussion of all of those years of mistreating people, of mistreating women, of not paying people of what they're supposed to be paid, of stealing talent. This is all coming back on him.
Yeah, I think so too. I've always jokingly said that Diddy's kind of like the Black Peter Pan. He's not just the Black Epstein. He's like the Black Epstein Peter Pan, because I've watched this guy for 30 years and he looks the same, dresses kind of the same, acts the same, does the same goofy little dances. I never understood it. Even back when he was doing stuff with Mace, where they were in the camera and with the shiny clothes, I never understood any of that. I never got any of it. I just thought that the whole world was going crazy, and I just, was the weirdo. And I felt this way in like 1999, right? So I imagine I've sat here 25 years kind of watching this and said, wow, is this what the Black community admires? Is this what is going to drive us in terms of what we aspire to be when it comes to wealth? Does this inspire? Is this what drives us when it comes to education? Because, Diddy had a school. Is this the imagery that drives us when it comes to politics? Because you remember, how many of y'all remember Vote or Die? Remember when Diddy was telling y'all, if you don't vote for the Democrats, you're going to die? Now, I'd be really curious to know how many of those Democrats are going to come save him. And now that he's in the fire, I don't think they're going to come save him. They're going to leave him out to dry. But it's just kind of interesting, sad, to see it kind of go like this. But it's interesting because it speaks to the kinds of people that we're told to look up to in our community. I mean, remember, you go back 6 years, Diddy was one of the most admired Black people in America.
Mhm.
I mean, when he created Revolt and everything, he was the guy that, I remember him doing a video. Anybody remember he did a video where he said, if you don't give us what we want, we're going to withhold the Black vote. Anybody remember that? He literally came out and then talked as if he could withhold the Black vote. But really all he was doing was kind of lassoing the Black vote and pulling the Black vote together so he can hand Black people over to a certain political party. So I don't know. I kind of feel like the indictment of Diddy is an indictment of society. It's an indictment of all of us. It speaks about not just about him, but about his circle, our community, and everything. I don't know. What do you think? Am I being too dramatic here?
Like how so? Are you saying they're using him for an example? Because I think that they've already did that. They did that with Bill Cosby. They did that with R. Kelly. So I don't think that they're using him as an example. I think that you get high on the horse because he's been doing these things for years. But if you go back to what you said, he was at the top of his game. So he was making the money for years. Diddy doesn't make money anymore. He doesn't have any bands. He doesn't have any acts. He doesn't have any talent. He lost his Ciroc deal. He does not make money for anybody else anymore. So what do they need him for now? Now they put him back out in the field. Like they was like, you can come in the house, you can tap dance, you can make money, you can do your little shimmy, you can gather people up. We're gonna give you some business deals. We're gonna show you how we do it. We're gonna show you where we bury the bodies. We're gonna show you how we bury the bodies. And when you act a fool, we're gonna protect you. Keep making this money. When the money dries up, not only does the money dry up, but you want to buck against the system that we've been protecting you all these years. We've been making money together. Now you don't make us no money, and you getting sued and bringing our name and our businesses into it. We have to send you back out to the field. You have to and then shun you and then turn our backs on you. Too many celebrities have the opportunity to rise and do it with integrity. And let's say, I'm not going to say stand up for, but let's say represent the Black people in a way that makes good sense. And too often they don't do it. And then this is what happens. So now we as a community are left with, what do we do? He is a talent. We can't take nothing away from Diddy. He is a talent. He has brought many of people to the fold, but he brought them to the fold and then he took advantage of them. So we're left with this like ball of confusion because it is a Black man. This Black man has ascended and done things that a lot of people have not done, but he didn't do it with integrity. He didn't do it in a way that made Black people look or feel good. And so now he's being crucified. And then we as Black people are left with the bag. Like, what do we do with this person? He did do bad things, but he also did these great things. What do we do?
Well, you know what? By the way, I'm talking to Dr. Lene Javette, and we're talking about this whole indictment with Diddy and everything that's been going on with that. If you could please do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. And also, Dr. Javette is a faculty member in the Black Business School, as well as a businesswoman on her own. And she's doing something with us in partnership called the B1 Profit Accelerator. So if you want to take a look and you want to get your business either off the ground or get it moving forward and talk to Dr. Javette directly, you can go to b1profitaccelerator.com. I put the URL on the screen. Did I spell it right, Lene?
Yes, b1profitaccelerator.com. That's it.
All right. So here's the interesting thing about Diddy. I do agree, right? The charges were pretty heinous. They were kind of ugly. Just to kind of summarize for those who don't know, you've got some racketeering in here, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, transportation to engage in prostitution. They specifically use terms like taking people across state lines, that kind of thing. They said that he ran a criminal enterprise that engaged in sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. He allegedly abused, threatened, and coerced women and others to fulfill his sexual desires and protect his reputation. He's accused of orchestrating freak-offs, which are elaborate sex performances that he arranged, directed, and often recorded. He allegedly used drugs, financial control. There's that word money. There's that word financial. So this is where money pops in. You get away with a lot when you have money, which is something you want to watch out for. And career opportunities to manipulate victims. The indictment claims Combs used violence, including kicking, punching, and dragging victims. I can keep going. There's more, but you get the point. He's in trouble. They're trying to bury him under the jail. When they start using those, those RICO charge terms like conspiracy, his criminal empire. What else they say? What's some of the other words they did use? Racketeering, and stuff like that. Yeah, they're trying to get these RICO charges. That's what they're trying to do. And I think that they're trying to give him, I know a guy that got a RICO charge. He got 14 life sentences with no parole. That means if he
minimum 20 years with a RICO charge. The minimum is 20 years with a RICO charge. If they just get him on one only, it's a minimum of 20 years.
Yeah, he's got some problems, and one of the things that came to mind to me is that for a very long time, if you go back 6 years, go back to 2016, Diddy would have been easily considered to be one of the most influential Black people in America. I remember I knew a young lady who told me that when she went to college, she said, I didn't study. I didn't go to class. I said, well, why didn't you go to class? She said, because I wanted to go to Atlanta because I specifically wanted a job in the music industry. And she said, I wanted to meet Diddy or Jay-Z. She specifically named those two. And in my mind, they were going to come hire me and take me away to New York, and I wouldn't have to finish school. That's how diluted this game can get some of our kids, right? And she said, once I got a chance to even put a tiny foot in that industry, I realized how badly they treat women, how nasty that stuff gets, the crazy stuff that they do. She said, I thank God that they didn't discover me, because they would have ruined my life. It doesn't seem to me that, Lene, that sometimes, particularly because we see the money and the lights and the fame and the glamorous stuff, we get attracted to the wrong stuff. Like, you think that, like D1 always says, the devil can bless you too. And so you get these blessings, you say, thank you, God, but really you're thanking the wrong person. You really need to be thanking Satan, because Satan is the one who sent you that nonsense. God ain't going to send you that. What do you think about that in terms of us being sucked in by this nonsense?
I think that a person has to really decide what their soul is worth, what their dreams are worth. We hear it all the time. We hear it in that industry, that it will suck your soul out of you. Not even just entertainment. I'm talking about Hollywood. We see it with actors. We see it with musicians. It's not just the music industry. It's the entertainment industry. To be in it, you have to sell your soul, more so for women than men. But we hear the men got to get on their knees and sell their soul too, right? It goes both ways. So I think you have to really be careful when you're going into that type of an environment. Keep good people around you. I was literally about to say people with parents don't have that problem, but we do know that sometimes even when you have a parent, you have that problem. I think Usher's mom was his manager and sent him for a weekend with Diddy. But then you have other parents that are in that industry, like Zendaya's parents or like Keke Palmer's parents, who are adamant. They're in all the meetings, they're on the sets, they're da, 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 and you don't have those types of problems. So I think it just depends on how bad do you want it, and are you willing to sell your soul to get it?
Well, you know what? When it comes to that thing called money, you see where, for those that are sent into these spaces and they've never been sort of given these boundaries, and then you show up and you're financially desperate. I mean, that to me really speaks to why how a Diddy can get a hold of you, right? First of all, you're already in awe of his power and fame. Society gives him that, right? He was one of the most powerful black men on the entire earth. This man sat next to kings. He probably at some point went to see the Pope, and the Pope said, "Oh, Diddy's here." I mean, and that's what's interesting, right? You have all these people. He sat next to Obama, Will Smith, like you name it. There was not a single person anywhere that I can think of that Diddy couldn't sit next to. So now of course, everybody's going to want to, get you to erase your memory. They're going to do like the Men in Black and do the little flasher and get your memory to be erased. But go back. I want you to go look back at pictures he's taken through the years, pictures with Al Sharpton, Donald Trump, Barack Obama. And I want you to really sort of, I think there's something to learn here about all this BS in hip hop. Like hip hop, there were people who've always said, go back to, shout out to C. Dolores Tucker in the 1990s. Anybody remember C. Dolores Tucker? You remember C. Dolores Tucker?
Mm-mm.
C. Dolores Tucker was an older woman. At that time, she seemed old to me. I was in my 20s. Maybe she was in her 50s. She's passed on now. C. Dolores Tucker was a woman who, back in the mid to early 90s, saw where hip hop was going. When they started calling women B's and H's, and the men started rapping about murdering black people and all this other stuff, back in the NWA days, she was the one who said, "This is not good. This is bad. This is a bad look. We're disrespecting our women. We're throwing our community away. We're celebrating ignorance." And they beat that poor lady up. Tupac went off on her. All the Ice Cube, all the rappers were just like, "You shut up, you stupid old lady." That kind of attitude. But look at where we are 30 years later. She was right. Because the thing is that it's, and this is being addressed. I think Kendrick Lamar addressed it a little bit. D1 did as well. Lecrae has that you have a point where you're celebrating the degenerates in your community, right? Like men, you're admiring the guy who would gladly rape your daughter and your son. You look at, ladies, you're trying to have a baby with a man who's going to give you an STD and abandon the child, right? Like that's what you're looking up to, right? Or get you shot while you're sitting in the passenger side of the car because you don't know what he's into, or get you 30 years because he done hit the crack up in your attic and you didn't even know that. Like, this is a real story. A lady did really go through that. So my point is to say that maybe this indictment, maybe there's more we can learn from it other than just the mere spectacle of saying, "Oh man, look at what happened to Diddy." Like, maybe we should have seen all this coming if we were able to kind of think about the environment that was being thrust on us. And you cannot just look at Diddy. You have to look at the money people that financed Diddy. That's what I'm looking at. Let's go to Clive Davis's house now. Let's go talk to all those executives and look at some of the stuff that they're into. And as far as I'm concerned, they all sort of need to be brought into this. What do you think?
I think you can always follow the money. The money. You can always follow the money. That makes me wonder, like, when we go back and we talk about all these pictures, we talk about the Obamas and the Trumps and all these pictures. Who knew what? Do the people who are showing up at these events, because they're not all parties, right? Sometimes he is where they are, right? He might be at the White House. He might be here. So do these individuals know what he is doing, what he's capable of, and what his record is when they're taking these pictures? Because sometimes you're at a party, but sometimes it's literally a snap, "Hey, can I grab a picture with you?" Right? Mm-hmm. So there's that. And then there is, if you don't know, right, now you kind of like draw it into the situation. But if you do know and you're accepting of it, and then you go to distance yourself, should you go down with the boat? Are you a part of it? Are you privy to it? And when you start talking about the money and following the money trail, it's two parts. They're pimping him by way of association to get in front of his audience, right? And utilize or exploit the Black community, if you will. And he's pimping them by brand association. It's a horrible, relentless cycle of exploitation and being used and access to the community. And I think when you go back to talking about Somebody was said earlier today that he was the one who framed or came up with the concept of Black excellence. When you go back and you think about it from that perspective, we have to be more in control of who we look up to. We have to be more in control of what we think is worthy of being excellence and a mentor. From a work perspective and work ethic, yo, Diddy, he works. We can't. We There's certain things about who he is we cannot deny, but we also can't sugarcoat or pretend like this other piece is not in existence and real. So I've always been a proponent, a person of don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, especially when you're dealing with these types of situations. Like R. Kelly is extremely talented. He's also a piece of shit, right? Diddy can be this and that. Like these two things can exist at the same time. And I think that we have to be cognitive of the fact that these people are puppets. These celebrities, they're puppets. At the end of the day, they're puppets.
That's a powerful point that you made with that. I'll start with what you said about these people are puppets. Yeah, you're right. Without the financial backers who wrote those first checks to really put these guys on the map, there nothing exists, right? So if they had decided, you know what, we want to grab onto someone who has a character that is more consistent with what we want to see in the world, there might not even be a Diddy. You may have never heard of him because there are these people, I call them economic gods, who are able to write those first big checks and make people famous and change their lives. And then what happens is, this is how colonialism works, y'all. I want y'all to pay attention. This is what a colonizer does. The colonizer uses their economic power to come in and basically pick and choose. They cherry pick which black person is going to be the leader. They pick your black leaders. They've been picking your black leaders for over 100 years. They've been picking your black leaders since slavery. So they pick this black leader. They give him lots of money, lots of fame, lots of power, lots of reach. And then they parade that Negro through the community. And all the other black people look up and say, "Ooh, I want to be like him. Ooh, I want to be down with him. Ooh, I want to follow him." And then they are in this guy's ear and they're telling him how to lead the black community. I felt that way when I saw Diddy parading that whole vote or die thing. I said, I've always said this. Malcolm X used to say this. Why are your celebrities telling you who to vote for in the first place? What do you mean vote or die? What the hell does that mean anyway? That's crazy. And so so Diddy has a lot of affiliations with a lot of people. And you're right, Lene. That's a very good point to make, that celebrities take a lot of pictures with a lot of people and you don't know who knew what, right? So just because Diddy was kicking it with Al Sharpton doesn't mean Sharpton was at the Diddy parties, even though he was at some of the parties, but we don't know if he participated in it. I don't know what he participated in, nor is it even interesting to accuse him of anything. We know Barack Obama was close to Diddy because they were working together to get black people to vote for certain politicians. That's fine. They were partnering on something. That doesn't mean Obama was at the Diddy parties either. But I think that there's something here in the sense that Diddy is similar to R. Kelly in that it ain't like this surprised anybody. In fact, I'm going to ask y'all in the chat. Give me a yes or no. How many of y'all were not surprised by the allegations? How many of you were not surprised at all? Give me a yes if you were not surprised. A no if it shocked you. Give me a no if you were shocked by what you saw. And give me a yes if you're like, yeah, I kind of thought at some point something like this might emerge, that these allegations, I mean, all of us give me a yes if you've heard about all this. I mean, it's not like we found out yesterday Diddy might be a degenerate. And I guarantee you that if these celebrities, the Barack Obamas, if you will, they scrutinize, they study the people that they kick it with. They do. They're not going to go just hang out with anybody. So I think that what was going on for a really long time is that people knew that something right with this dude. People knew, I knew, you knew, a lot of us knew that some crazy stuff was kind of happening over there. But I think what happens is that we get hypnotized by the money and the power. We say, well, you know what? I don't like what he's doing, but shoot, he's powerful in the black community. Look, he's a billionaire. He's on TV. He's hanging out with the Obamas and Will Smith and Donald Trump and all these important people. So I got to get in line. And there's very few people in the world that have the courage to just stand up and say, no, I'm not down with none of that shit. Like I know what you're up to. I can tell you, I talked to a guy in the hip hop space. I'm not going to say his name. It was a private conversation. But one day I asked him, I said, and this was a guy who wasn't scared of anything. Like he's like kind of a tough guy. And I said, so what about Diddy? I said, do you know Diddy? Like what's he like? I haven't met him. And he said, man, I'd never seen like that kind of fear in his eyes. He said, man, he said, I don't know what they got going on over there, but they got some dark shit over there. Like almost like witchcraft. So that's what it's almost sounded like. And and Dr. Claude Anderson, he met Diddy. He went to Diddy flew him up to talk about powernomics. And I remember Dr. Anderson was asking me about, sometimes he'll ask me about certain people, like when Tiffany Haddish and Charlemagne flew down to his house. He was like, there was a comedian, a lady who, I don't know, a radish or something. I said, you mean Tiffany Haddish? She said, yeah. And he said, is she famous? I said, yeah, I said, she's kind of like what Red Fox was back in the day. And he said, oh, so he really got that, right? You know, so I was explaining to him like some of these celebrities. And when he talked about Diddy, I remember he talked about, he said, they were just kind of weird. Like a lot of guys were walking around with tight pants and everything. I didn't know what was going on with that. And the other thing that was interesting was he said that there was a lot of like, and you see this a lot of talking, just a lot of talking, but no action. You know, and this is one of the other things about hip hop that I think we have to really extract out of our community. We have to kind of examine that. I'm not going to say shame it, but there's something to be concerned about. I'm not going to say disrespect it because I'm not trying to be mean about men who talk about what they're going to do and don't follow through. Right? Diddy has always been a talker. He said, "Hey y'all, we're going to go buy the Carolina Panthers." And then everybody gives 10,000 likes and then nothing happens. Right? Or hey y'all, we're going to have a march and a rally. Everybody gets together, you get pumped up, you get mad because somebody got shot by the police, but then there's no follow through. Right? If you think about it, somebody said this, and I'm done saying this, but I think Umar actually said this. He said something, and I agreed with him 100%. He said, in 50 years of hip hop, we haven't had one black hospital, we haven't had one black-owned bank, we haven't had anything that developed any infrastructure in the black community. Just a bunch of loud talking dudes who make albums and have freak offs. You know, like not that all rappers are the same. We know this. Not all rappers do the same. But you know what the culture is. So I do agree with you, Lene, that the responsibility for this is Diddy, but it's like the environment kind of creates the Diddies. The environment creates this stuff, you know, and culture can be created by the people that have the money and the power to kind of shape that. What are your thoughts?
I think I wrote this down because I didn't want to forget it because my memory's not as good as it used to be. But Denzel Washington, there's a quote of Denzel Washington that says he goes to the parties, but he leaves 30 minutes before the devil shows up. So I think it's people might not know what's happening, what's going on, but they know after a certain hour things are going to go left. So you know to kind of be present but be gone, because it's networking. When you're in that space, you kind of have to show up because you got to network, but you want to leave. You don't want to get caught there after dark because you don't know what's happening in those back rooms. But I think it was bound to happen. To your point, I definitely think that the environment, I almost want to say dictates it. Like, I hate to say it that way because you want to feel like people have a choice. You want to feel that you can go into a situation and walk out of it. But I almost feel like in those spaces, it dictates it because in order for me to be comfortable and do what I need to do, I need you to do it too. So I'm going to need you to do X, Y, and Z. So I have some. If you do dirt and I have you doing dirt, then you're not going to be so quick to run out and tell my dirt. So it's almost like it warrants it. And again, I'm not justifying it. It's why you have to be careful when you go into these types of environments because it's everywhere. It's rampant. It's not just one person. It's executive producers. It's in the music. It's in the artists. It's actors trying to get a job. You got to go sit on the couch and do some stuff. It's the industry that needs a complete do-over. It's happening with black people, it's happening with white people, but unfortunately black people get the worst end of it, but it's the industry. And I almost feel like you know this when you go into it, because even when we hear these kind of stories, everybody wasn't a victim. You have some people that know and or knew and or gathered that this is what was happening and ran to it. His last girlfriend or the last chick that he was messing with, she was aware, she was okay. Like every single person in this industry, in this atmosphere who has had contact with him is not a victim. There's a lot, but not all.
Oh my God. You know what? I misspelled your name. It's not Lynette, it's Lene. There should be two E's.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
so sorry, Lene. You know what? I have a friend actually. Her name is Lynette, and it's spelled like that. And for some reason, the E came in there in my head, but I'm gonna fix that. I'm not gonna misspell the name of Dr. Lene Javette. And speaking of that, that is who I'm speaking to, everybody. Dr. Lene Javette. Dr. Javette is also really great at helping you get your business off the ground. She got her doctorate basically studying Black entrepreneurs and particularly Black women, but she also understands a lot about entrepreneurship in general. As you all know, in the Black Business School, we believe every Black person needs to own a business. Even if you don't run a business, you should own a piece of a business. So if you're looking to make your move and learn a little bit more, you can reach out to Dr. Javette. Go to b1profitaccelerator.com. The URL is right there on the screen. That's b1profitaccelerator.com. You can talk to her directly. Don't let fear stop you. There are opportunities out there so that you can be doing well enough financially that you won't have to go to a Diddy party in order to get an opportunity, which speaks to my next point, Dr. Javette. I personally think that what makes these Diddy cases complicated to me is that there is a point where you can make a conceivable argument to say that a lot of the people, maybe even the majority, who knows, of those who participated in the freak-offs, none of them were really forced to be there. Very few of them were, right? Now, mind you, it is possible that they pulled out their guns and went and grabbed people off the street, put the gun in their head and said, "You're going to come do a freak-off with me." But we know that that's not how it went down. Diddy attracted people. Diddy was a guy everyone wanted to talk to. I told you about that young lady that went to college and said, "I went to college so I could meet Diddy one day and he's going to make all my dreams come true." So they're showing up thinking, "I'm going to get something out of this guy." And he's thinking, "No, I'm connected to the devil. We're going to get something out of it. You making a deal with the devil, right? And the devil's going to make sure he gets a return on his investment." How do you draw the line? Because you mentioned Young Miami. I haven't seen that girl, Young Miami. I think that's who you're talking about, Young Miami.
Is that her name? Okay.
Yeah, that's her name, Young Miami, YUNG, Young Miami. She did an interview and she literally, she was kicking it with Diddy and she was very happy. I think she was spending $60,000 or $70,000 a month shopping or something, some ridiculous amount. Maybe it was $200,000. Like, it was a lot of money. And she literally does an interview with Jason Lee and she's like, "I'm a whore. I'm a really big whore." Like, that's what she's, and I was like, wow. She enunciated the W and the H, like, "I'm a whore." And I'm like, well, at least you're owning it, right? So my thought is this, right? So what if you're a Young Miami and you say, I want to go to the freak offs. I want to be around Diddy because the challenges of doing a 12-hour freak off are outweighed by all the privilege that comes with flying on private jets, meeting with presidents and popes, living in castles, staying in the finest hotels. Do those people have a legitimate case? Like, what, they come back years later, maybe because Diddy cut them off and says, "Okay, you know what? I don't want to do freak offs with you anymore. I found other people I want to freak off with." And they come back 10 years later and file a lawsuit. Do they have a case?
So I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know if they have a case or not. However, I have held this stance since R. Kelly. And that is, when you show up to play the game, you can't be a victim too. Ooh. You have to pick a side. If you are being coerced, forced, or you're doing something against your will, meaning this person has manipulated you in some kind of a way to do this thing, and you have communicated that you do not want to do it, you are being forced. You are a victim. But if you show up and you know what the name of the game is, and you are about it, you cannot be a victim. You cannot then say, "I was taken advantage of." You showed up. You knew the name of the game. You played the game. It's what makes it difficult for true victims to be victims, because while Diddy does probably have a plethora, he has carnage of victims, everybody's not. Some people wanted to play. Some people wanted to further their careers. Some people knew what it took. Everybody that went to the Diddy party, who played the Diddy games, who freaked off, was not forced to do it.
That's real.
The ones who were are true victims, and they should be compensated and get the care that they need, and they should. But the ones who didn't, they shouldn't be allowed to get a paycheck and be like, "Oh no, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't mean to. I was forced to be there." I don't think that's right. I think that when we see these types of things happen to a person, but right now it's happening to a Black man, so I'm gonna say a Black man. When we see these types of things happen to a Black man, I think everybody jumps on board, even the people who played played the game. Even people who were like, I want to be here, I want to play, I want to ride the roller ride. Let me see what it's like. You don't get to then add your name to the pile of shit that's being slung at this man, and you knew what you were doing.
It's almost like if a criminal robs a criminal, who's the real criminal and who's the victim, right? And that's the hard part. Like if one drug dealer kills another drug dealer in the middle of a drug deal, and then then automatically the person who lost the fight is the one who's who we see as the victim. But that's because we're looking at the world through a certain lens, right? We're looking through a black and white lens, and a lot of situations are not black and white. You're 100% correct. I like truth. I like to know what's really going down. I don't like when it gets all political because people try to make it simple. Alicia and I were in LA, and we had a really fascinating ride in a Uber. It was one of those fancy Ubers with a guy named David. And David was about a 70-year-old man who'd been driving in LA for many years. He said, I used to drive for Hugh Hefner. And he was a white guy. And he basically said, I feel like they did Bill Cosby dirty. He said, I drove Mr. Cosby a lot. I drove Mr. Hefner. He said, the stuff that Hugh Hefner did was 100 times worse than anything Bill Cosby ever did. He said, also, I watched those documentaries. I knew some of the people in the documentaries, and some of the people claiming to be victims were not really victims. They were claiming to be drugged, but they were drug addicts. How do you know, if a drug addict says I was drugged, what does that mean, right? Or if you say I was drugged and I found out you were a drug addict, how do I assess that, right? So here's what the solution is. I'm going to tell you what I think the solution really is in terms of practical Uncle Boyce advice for anybody who wants to know what I think. Not that anybody cares, but I'm going to lay it out there real quick. When I was at Syracuse University, we would have these cases come up where somebody would say, I was at a party, everybody was drunk, and I got violated. And you want to hear that. You want to make sure that this does not happen to anybody, but it's confusing as shit. It's like people who went to bed at 11 o'clock that night, or 10 o'clock that night, are hearing about stuff that happened at 2 a.m. where everybody was so drunk that nobody can remember what happened. And so one drunk person is saying, no, this other drunk person did this thing to me. I don't remember exactly what it was because I was drunk too and they were drunk. But because I was drunk, I'm not accountable for my actions. But he was drunk, but he's fully accountable for his actions. It was weird to me. And I was like, why don't y'all just stop this shit? Like, just let's stop encouraging 18-year-olds to go out and get pissy drunk and create these chaotic situations where people have to sort through all that nonsense in the morning. So if you want to take it to the corporate space, to me, this is doubly true if you're talking about doing business with other people. The number one thing, the biggest thing I would say to a guy like a Diddy, if he was my friend and gave a damn what I thought, is I'd say, come on, bro, you're running a business. Freak offs, there's no HR manual anywhere that explains how to hold your corporate freak offs. These are like there's nothing there. There's nothing like these are your employees. Your W-2. So no matter how you spin it, even if you say, well, no, she was down, I was down, we were all down, we were all getting high together doing this again. I would say, well, why are you even doing that when you're their boss? You're their employer. You're not supposed to be doing that. And that to me is the line of demarcation. Don't hold freak offs at work. Same thing with Lizzo. Lizzo had them doing all kinds. Did you hear about the Lizzo stuff, Lene? Oh yeah, she was having concerts where the ladies they're suing her right now. Y'all can go look it up. Because she was having them go on stage and push bananas out of their vaginas and stuff. Like, how do you explain that? You can't be like, well, we were just having fun and we're entertainers and this is what we. No, you don't know. Like, do you understand? So you're blending.
That becomes one of those. That's one of those things again. This is where common sense comes in. Like, did you take the job and the terms of the job changed, or when you were hired, did they say you're going to have to squirt bananas out, and you said okay?
And I don't think that was in the training manual for the job, though. Like, I cannot imagine any job you would take that is governed by American labor laws where there's some space where you can be asked by your boss to squirt a banana out of your vagina.
But that's the thing. There are spaces where people can ask you to do that. Like that.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. You got it. So you mean like maybe at like a strip club or something?
Strip clubs, porn, certain
okay.
There is a market for everything, and people who are in those industries are aware of what is required for that market. In Lizzo's case, as a dancer, that market made those two markets probably do not go together. So then as an employee or independent contractor, most likely, you then get to say no. So if you get hired for a job and you take the job and you get there and the job changes or the rules change or what is required of you to fulfill that job no longer meets your level of ethics, then you walk out. Like that's what the normal person does. They walk out. This is not what I signed up for. No, no, thank you. No, ma'am. Deuce. Other folks will be like, maybe just this time, or maybe once, or let me try it, or let me see how bad it is. And then they'll do it. And then they'll be like, well, they made me do this, but they gave you the option. And this is what you chose. In that choosing, you sold your soul, whether you knew it or not, right? Because the other person will be like, ain't no way I'm about to do this. I'm out. And they will walk away. That's what I'm saying. You got to decide, are you the victim or did you want to play? Because if you then say, I had to do this to further my career, but did you? Did you have to do that to further your career? Because you could have took a lesser career. You could have went a different route. I mean, again, I am not saying that these people who have been harmed or injured or been taken, I'm not saying that they're wrong or victims. I'm just talking about we have choices.
Wow. Like E40 says, everybody got choices. Well, I'm gonna tell you what. I think that's a great point. And
let me say this. Let me be devil's advocate. Let me be devil's advocate. Let me say it this way. Let me say it this way, because I've been in that position. I have actually been in that position of having to make that decision for myself. You already know I used to be a dancer, so I used to dance. When I moved to California, I had already said I'm not going to be dancing anymore. When I first got to California, it was a little bit hard for me to make money working at Sprint PCS. And so I was like, let me just try it one more time. So went to a place I was going to dance while I was in California. And he called me for an interview. They came back in. It was just him and I just felt like it was off. I knew something wasn't quite right. Couldn't really figure out what it was. Then it was like, sit here, remove that. And I was like, you know what? I don't think this is for me. I'm going to go ahead and leave. And I got my stuff and I left. And that was the very last time. I never did anything in the industry again. But I knew it. Like I knew this is a moment where you are either going to go this way or you're going to go this way. You can either go down this path and this could end up this way. You can't come back from this, or you need to walk out of this room right now. And I made the choice to walk out of the room. I have no idea what could have happened, what would have happened, none of that. But mentally, you know, your antennas go up like, okay, you're in a situation, what you gonna do? And you make that choice. I've also been in the situation before that one, when I was deciding if I was gonna be a dancer, right? You're sitting backstage and you have to make that decision. Am I about to go out here on the stage or am I not? And in that moment, I was like, girl, you about to go out here on the stage. And I made that decision. And in that moment, I made that decision. We get to make the choice. We get to make the choice. You have to be able to live with I don't want to say that you have to be able to live with it. That's not true. We get to make the choice. That's what I'll say.
Wow, great points. By the way, if you want to know who this brilliant lady is that I'm talking to, it's Dr.
Doctor in front of that, Dr. Boyce. I am Dr. Lene Javette. I am Dr. Lene
Oh,
Javette.
I am Dr. Oh, you changed that. You changed
Yes, but I got that doctor.
I'm just getting everything wrong. I'm totally getting everything. I'm gonna get it right. I promise. Yes, ma'am. So this is Dr. Lene Javette, if you're wondering who this really smart lady is that I'm talking to. And that's her Instagram. You can follow her on Instagram at I am Dr. Lene Javette. Also, she is great at helping people get their businesses started and off the ground. So if you want to go meet with her directly and learn from her, she's part of the Black Business School. You can go to b1profitaccelerator.com. That's b1profitaccelerator.com. And also, for those of you that don't know, we also do free financial training every morning in the Black Business School. I personally do this class 7 days a week because I want anybody who wants to listen to learn about economics, stock markets, all that stuff. So if you want to join us, you can go to b1moneytips.com. That's b1moneytips.com. That's all right there. That's free. And the Profit Accelerator does have a fee, but it's well worth it because I know a lot of you are entrepreneurs and you want to get your business off the ground. So feel free to check out B1 Profit Accelerator. All right. So here, so you made some really good points, right? And I'm inclined to agree, right? I am. Because I kind of don't like the way everything's become political, and it's gotten to the point where it's sort of like there's just almost no accountability for some people that might be considered in a protected class. And so what my only concern would be, though, is there will be some who'd argue, and I'm going to be devil's advocate to what you said just now, just to kind of give you a chance to respond to this. There might be some. Let's say that I am at the job, and somebody says, "Hey, Dr. Boyce, take your shirt off, sexy man." And I say, "How dare you? You can't. I refuse to do this. You're disrupting my integrity." And I make my choice. I draw my boundary and say, "I'm out of here. I'm gone." Right? Some would say that I'm still a victim because there were conditions placed upon me to keep my job that were just unfair. Right? That because I wouldn't get freaky with you or do whatever that you want me to do, now I don't have a job. So even though I did exercise my right to walk away, which everybody does, some would say that it's an unfair consequence that, so you expand that to somebody wanting to sleep with somebody and them saying, "Hey, if you sleep with me, I can make sure you get the starring role in the movie. But if you don't, then you're going to get passed over by somebody who did." And that's kind of been the way a lot of the game has been played in Hollywood for a very long time. A lot of your most famous actors and actresses out here slept their way to the top. How do you balance that? I mean, how do you even begin to be fair with something like that? Because here's the other funny thing about it. There are some people who say, "Yeah, I'd rather sleep my way to the top than actually do the work anyway." So, so it's not as if it's always the boss initiating that. I know that from experience. I remember going to LA and it was a stupid little movie. I was nobody's film director, but I had some pretty girls approaching me and trying to work their way into the process, if you know what I mean. And I was like, "I can't do nothing for you. Like, what you think you're gonna get?" But that was the mindset, and it wasn't something I was doing. It was just something. But here's the thing. Let's say that I took one of them up on it or something, and they decide, "Well, you know what? Now I'm gonna paint a picture. Oh, doctor, he manipulated me. He tricked me. He made me sleep with him." Like that. That's too much. Like, how do you sort between all that? How do we be fair and realistic at the same time?
I think it's personal choice. That's my honest answer. You have people who are okay with it and they can live with it. If you are okay with it and you can live with it, by all means. It's not for me to judge. I don't have to judge one. If you're not okay and you can't live with it, then don't do it. Don't. What is the saying? Play silly games will win silly prizes. Like, don't play a silly game if you don't want the silly prize, right? Know your industry. Know what's required. Sometimes, because to your point, people will be like, "Why did you go to the casting call by yourself? Why did you go in if it was just you and it?" Like, there's all these different things. Sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you have good intentions and you think that this person has good intentions for you. You didn't know, you didn't realize it. But to the other side, to your point, you walked in knowing, "Okay, I'm ready to play the game. Like, I know if I lay on this couch, I'm about to get this role." But do you know how many people have laid on the couch to get the role and didn't get the role? And then you walk away feeling like, dang, like, you really have to know yourself, what you are willing to do, what you're not willing to do. Dare I say what your number is, right? Like, that's the truth. And it's not just in entertainment. It's in business. It's in your marriage. It's in relationships. It's in all the things that we do. There is a tilt point, a point where you will and you won't. There's a place where you won't cheat, and there's a place where you will. In all of life, our integrity is challenged, and we have to decide, who are we? What are we made of? What will we do? What won't we do? How will we act? What will we say? What won't we say? Are we going to curse? Are we not going to curse? Are we going to walk around with our ass hanging out? Are we not going? Like, every single day, you are challenged with the type of person that you're going to be and whether you're going to live with integrity. And again, it's personal choice, because what you may say is operating with integrity, I may feel like, "Oh my God, I would never do that." Right? So that's the thing, like, personal choice. What are you willing to live with? What aren't you willing to live with? What circumstances are you willing to put yourself in? Which ones aren't? If somebody calls you out and tells you that this is what you have to do in order for you to become a 7-figure earner, I'm going to put you on the map. I'm going to give you a deal. I'm going to take care of all of your family. And all you got to do is give me a little bit of head today. And everything that you need and want, it's going to be straight. I just need a quick, like, 6 minutes of your time, and everything that you want. You're going to be famous. I'm gonna put $1 million in your bank account. Your family's gonna be taken care of. I just need 6 minutes. What you gonna do? What you gonna say?
6 minutes, 6 minutes, 6 minutes. Doug, you fresh
Like,
your
fresh you
own,
up.
on. Yeah,
Easy for
yeah,
us to judge. Who and you tell you $1 million might not be your number. 5 million.
mm,
5 million like your number. 10. I give you 10 minutes. 10 million for 6 minutes.
you know, yeah, good thing that men aren't the ones that being asked to do this because,
But they are too. Men are being asked to do it as well.
well. I mean, you know, yeah. I mean, if you're a man and Diddy asks you for 6 minutes of your time, I know a lot of guys who would have a problem with that, right? But if it's a beautiful woman that says, make me happy, it's interesting because I know guys that have been in situations like that, and it's not. For some of them, it has not. It was a trade off that was worthwhile, and women too. There's some, So I think that's the hard part is kind of figuring out how do you be realistic and fair at the same time. And right now, I don't think that we're realistic or fair because workplace romances happen all the time. We know women are, if you read, I wrote this all about this in my book, Financial Lovemaking, where I looked up the science. Women are attracted to men who are wealthy and powerful. That women are not chasing down the broke, powerless guy in the company. They're chasing, the guy. They're typically interested in the guy who's got the money and got all the power. And so for you to criminalize that power and to say that, like they did with Tavis Smiley and say every woman that you ever slept with, you somehow are a predator because you accepted advances that were sent your way. I don't think that that's realistic, right? But I would not put Diddy in the same category as a Tavis Smiley, particularly because I just think the Diddy case is so much more egregious. Drugs were involved. There are a lot of people that seem to have really been hurt by their experience, and I just think it's sad. I mean, it's messy because it's almost like it reminds me of the R. Kelly situation where celebrities, fame is a drug, money's a drug. So you're high on this money and fame, and you really think that you can get away with anything. You really start to, I mean, it's almost, it just reminds me so much of that movie. I hope everybody would consider watching it. It's called Dorian Gray. Have I told you the story about Dorian Gray?
Mm-mm.
It's a great story. It takes place in the 19th century in England, but it's about a guy who had a pure soul. He was like a really nice guy. He had a little fiance he really loved and everything. And he had a little buddy that after work, his buddy was like, come on, man, you never have any fun. He's like, well, I want to get home to my fiance because I love her. He's like, let's make a little stop, right? So he takes him basically into this house of prostitution and where they're getting high with, and I think it was like opium. So it's like an opium den where it's like sex and drugs basically. And he has that one experience. And at that point, it really affects him in the sense that he ends up making this deal with the devil where the lengths to which he had to go to kind of still get that high, that rush, got worse and worse and worse. And the reason it was like a deal with the devil was basically they put his soul went out of his body and it was in this painting. But his body would stay perfect. Like he stayed 32 years old for the next 60 or 70 years. And he also had this like magical power where he had a lot of wealth and power, but he also had this power over women. He could just get any woman to sleep with. So by the time he was done, he slept with all the women in the whole town. And then he ended up leaving and he got to the point where he had to sleep with men and dogs and then he would kill people, like do whatever it took to like feed his.
Where are you watching TV at?
It's called Dorian Gray. You got to watch it because it's an old story. It's an old story written 150, 200 years ago. And what happens is that the guy gets to the point where his soul, like, because the painting has his soul's in the painting, and the painting starts to look nastier and nastier as it goes on. But he stayed perfect. Like literally 50 years later, he still looked 32 years old. All the women were like, "Ooh, Dorian Gray's in town," like that kind of thing. But by the time it was done, his soul was so corrupted that he hated himself. He just hated himself, right? And I feel like Diddy and R. Kelly remind me of Dorian Gray. Why? Well, when Deion Sanders talked about how he had everything he wanted. He had the fame, he won a Super Bowl, he had all the women, all the parties, all the money, but he wanted to kill himself. He drove off a cliff in his car, right? And that's what That's what led him to hit rock bottom in his life. So you say, why would a person who has it all, hate themselves and want to kill themselves? Well, it's because something's happened in your soul. Like really that dopamine rush we get from getting a kiss from the woman we love, or making a few dollars and being able to stay in a nice hotel, or being able to finally get that nice car that you want to get. Celebrities don't have that anymore. That does nothing for them. Will Smith talks about that. Will Smith was saying, he said, I wish everyone could get the blessing of knowing what it's like to have anything you want, anybody you want, to go anywhere and just snap your fingers and just have it. He said, because then you find out none of that stuff makes you happy. And you're just getting, you're taking, so you're literally like a drug addict, and you're taking more and more drugs. You're shooting up your fingers and your toes, and shooting cocaine into your testicles, doing whatever you can to try to get yourself that high, and you can't find it anymore. And that's when you have to go back inside again. And I feel like with Diddy and R. Kelly, if you look at the type of stuff they were doing crazy stuff. It's not exciting for R. Kelly to get a woman anymore. He had them all. So next thing you know, it's like little girls and little boys, and he's having sex with your cat, like this, 10 people at a time, just stuff that's just kind of out there. And that's what Diddy's freak off sounded like to me. It sounded like, I don't know. I feel like these guys, I wonder how they feel about themselves. Like, I bet you they have no happiness in life. I just kind of feel like, and I think people should be careful about this. Like, I don't know. There's something about that celebrity lifestyle that is not good for you. And I think hip hop only makes it worse because hip hop is a demonic space in certain areas. The people that run hip hop literally take everything that the devil would do to your soul to make you corrupt in a terrible human being, whether it's the drugs, the sex, the money, all these other things, the arrogance, and you just get full of all that stuff. And next thing you know, you just become this degenerate human being. And that's
I
what.
always say, I want the money. You can keep the fame. Like I don't need the fame. I don't want to. I don't want to have to jump through hoops. I don't want to have to be entertaining people. I don't want to do that. I just want to help other people make money. That's it. I don't need the fame. I want to make money. I want to help you make money, but keep the fame. I don't want to have to be selling my soul. I still want to be able to talk to Black people. I still want to say what I want to say. I still want to show up. Like, I know who I am, what I represent. I think when you get to a certain place, you can't do that no more. Like you were talking about with these Black celebrities, they get to a certain level, they don't bring Black people along. They don't do things for the Black people. You can't, like, you get put into a place where you have to decide, it's me and my family and my success in this environment going forward, or I can go help the Black people. And you can't do both. Maybe you can, but you're going to sacrifice in order to play the game at that level with those individuals who control those things and pull those strings and decide if you get what you get to do, and if you get this gig and whatever the case might be. You have to kind of like distance yourself from Blackness, from Black people, from Black agendas and things of that nature. I don't ever want to. I want to be successful. I want to make a lot of money, but I don't want to do it in a way where I can't still talk about Blackness, and I can't still talk about the things that represent Black people and what's important. People ask me all the time, are you going to go into politics? Absolutely not, because you can't be for the people and for the community and serve politics. I only and always want to be for Black people. I only and always want to represent Black entrepreneurs and our legacy and what we do. And it's really sad that you have to make a choice and decision between fame, notoriety, money, celebrityism, and community.
I think it's a good point. And I would say that part of the reason we want to be economically intelligent is so you don't have to make that choice. White people are not the only ones who can issue golden tickets in your life. We tend to believe that they have things that we can't get. And they do. They've got some money, stuff like that. The community that controls the hip hop music industry, they can write big checks, but that's not the only place you can go to become economically satisfied and successful. I know Black people that you'll never hear about, who will never be on television, it will never be mainstream, who have more of a positive impact on the Black community than any of these BS celebrities ever will. And so I don't care. Like, I wouldn't raise my child and say, oh, I want you to be another Barack Obama. Why? He wasn't effective. He was a great president, but he wasn't a president for the Black community in the sense that he could have been. I would have been even just as happy if Barack Obama had said, you know what? I'm not playing the game no more. I'm gonna go to an HBCU and educate 100,000 Black kids or something like that. That would have a greater impact than being president of the United States, because when you tend to get that sort of access to these other spaces, they dilute your blackness for natural reasons. What you can't be president, you can't. Kamala Harris can't get up there and be president and say, "I'm doing this stuff, all this stuff, just for black people all the time." She can't do that. That's not even practical. I totally understand. I'm like, you should be president. Go be president. That's good. But at the same time, the question is, who's gonna wake up every day and say, no, you know what? My top priority is black people. I'm thinking about black people every day. I'm putting my energy into black people every day. And so what we got to stop doing, I think, is somehow thinking that because I'm not a Barack Obama, that I'm less relevant than a Barack Obama. No, it's like parenting, right? Which parent matters the most? The imperfect parent who wakes you up every day and is there with you every day and feeds you and clothes you and takes care of you, or the highly successful parent who's off taking care of everybody but you? Right? I think that the first parent is more valuable. So it's not about what you can do; it's who you're doing it for and where you're doing it at. So I think that's like right now, for example, I'm a finance professor. I wake up every day thinking about black people, talking to black people. You talk to black people every day. That's far more impactful than some Negro sitting up at Harvard who talks to black people once a month. But no disrespect to the Negroes at Harvard. God bless you. I hope they give you a raise. I hope they treat you well. But they not like us. Shout out to Kendrick. They're not like us. So there we go. That's what I believe. So stop trying to impress other people. Impress yourself. Impress each other. I think that when you talk, it was interesting when you were talking. You used a term that I've heard used a lot, where you said to do things at that level, right? And I get what you're saying, right? Because you're talking about a lot of money and a lot of reach in terms of media, right? But I've kind of reshaped that and said, I don't think of it as at that level. I say in that space, because I don't consider that to be a higher level. I don't think that Diddy or anybody who's mainstream is at a higher level than I am. I'm right in the sweet spot. I'm right here in the black community doing black stuff all day. That's the level I want to be on. That's the space I want to be in, right? So I really kind of think that one thing that will help us to love ourselves more is to stop spending so much. We spend so much time admiring what everybody else got that we forget about what we got. And so being right here, to me, in the black community, that's where it's at. That's where our energy is best used. That's where our greatest value is created. I don't want to be Obama or Kamala Harris. God bless them. But I don't want to do that. I would be less effective if I were in Kamala's shoes than I am right now, because Kamala got a whole lot of people to take care of besides us. But all I got to take care of is us. Just like a parent. All I got to do is take care of my kids. I ain't trying to take care of the whole neighborhood's kids. So we got to keep that in mind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, first of all, tell you all who I'm talking to before we bounce out, because I can have this conversation all day, because I really enjoy talking to Lene. This is Dr. Lene Javette, y'all, and I hope that y'all will go follow her. She's on Instagram at I am Dr. Lene Javette. As you can see, she's very, very smart, and she cares about us, and she's awesome. And before I let her get the last word, I'm also going to mention that she teaches a great class on how to get your business off the ground, how to get it going, how to make money, basically, with your business. So if you are a business owner or planning to be one, you can go to b1profitaccelerator.com. That URL is on the screen. Is there anything you want to say about the Profit Accelerator, Lene, before we...
Yes. So the Profit Accelerator is, if you are just starting a business, it can be for you too. Let me just say that. But it is for people who are looking for a product. Like if you're looking to create a product, a digital course, something along that nature, passive revenue, passive income. If you want to make money while you sleep, we can accelerate your profit by creating a product. And that's what the B1 Profit Accelerator is for. For those of you who are like, I need to make more money. I want to make more money, even if it's just an extra $10,000 a year, $20,000 a year, $2,000 a month, and you're looking to accelerate that process, you want to take this class. That's what this is for.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So feel free to go to b1profitaccelerator.com. Also, for those of you that want to join us for Money in the Morning, you can get on the text list. I'll send you a wake-up call tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Every single day, we talk about economics, and we talk about Black economics. So if you want to get good with wealth investing, finances, everything else, feel free to join us for our morning class. We do this every morning. There's thousands of you that come in every single morning, and my goal is to turn that into millions at some point. So if you'd like to join us, text the word morning to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948. Or if you live overseas, you can go to b1moneytips.com. That's b1moneytips.com. So everybody, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Thank you so much to Dr. Lene Javette. I appreciate your time as well. And God bless you all. And please have a wonderful day. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.